7 minutes and 43 seconds. That is how long it took for Donald Trump to realize that Pam Bondi was not going to let him leave the room without answering the one question he had spent months avoiding. Not in a cable news interview where he could talk over the host. Not in a rally where the crowd would cheer before the question finished. In a closed-door deposition with a court reporter capturing every word, every pause, every deflection, and every moment where he tried to change the subject and got dragged back to the same question he could not answer. 7 minutes and 43 seconds of watching a man who built a career on controlling conversations lose control completely. Watch what happens when Bondi asks about the $847 billion transfer. Watch Trump's face cycle through confusion, dismissal, irritation, and something that looks like panic. Watch him try 7 different ways to avoid answering, and watch Bondi close every single exit until there is nowhere left to go except the truth. You need to see this from the beginning, because what happened in that room is not just about one evasive answer. It is about a pattern, a practiced, calculated, systematic pattern of deflection that works in every other setting but fails completely when someone refuses to move on. If you are new here, subscribe right now and turn on notifications, because what you are about to see is the most masterful interrogation of Donald Trump ever recorded, and almost nobody knows it exists because it happened in a deposition that was sealed for 8 months until a judge ordered it released last week. Let me set the scene for you. Law offices of Morrison & Feldstein, Manhattan, 47th floor conference room with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Midtown and a mahogany table long enough to seat 20 people, but only occupied by 5. Tuesday afternoon, the deposition was scheduled as part of a civil lawsuit related to financial disclosure violations, standard corporate litigation that generates no headlines and changes nothing. Standard. By the time this deposition ended, that word would be permanently retired from everyone's vocabulary who watched the transcript. Trump arrived with 2 attorneys, both of them veteran litigators who have defended him in dozens of cases. He sat at the head of the table in a navy suit with his arms crossed, and that expression he uses when he thinks the whole proceeding is beneath him. Bondi arrived alone. No co-counsel, no paralegals, no team of associates carrying bankers' boxes full of exhibits. Just Bondi with a single leather portfolio and a yellow legal pad. She sat directly across from Trump, close enough that they could make eye contact without effort, far enough that neither could reach across the table without standing. The court reporter sat at the corner, fingers ready on the stenograph, and asked if everyone was prepared to begin. Bondi said yes. Trump said, "Let's get this over with." The deposition started at 2:07 p.m. The first 22 minutes were standard background questions, name, address, business affiliations, the kind of foundational questions every deposition starts with. Trump gave short answers, mostly 1 or 2 words, clearly bored and checking his watch twice. Bondi's tone was professional, almost friendly, like she was just running through a checklist. Then she asked the question that changed everything in that room. "Mr. Trump, are you aware of a transaction that occurred in June 2023 involving a transfer of $847 billion? Trump looked up from his watch. "I am aware of many transactions. You will have to be more specific." "This transaction was authorized from accounts under your control." "I control many accounts. I have businesses all over the world." "This specific transaction was transferred to an entity called the Epstein Memorial Foundation." Trump's expression did not change, but his posture shifted slightly. "I do not recall that specific transaction." Bondi wrote something on the legal pad. "You do not recall authorizing $847 billion? "I authorize many things. My staff handles details." "Your staff handles $847 billion transfers?" "My staff handles financial operations. I provide strategic direction." "So you are saying you did not personally authorize this transfer?" Trump leaned back. "I am saying I do not recall every transaction. That is what accountants are for." If you have made it this far and this matters to you, subscribe now and hit the bell, because what comes next is 7 minutes of watching someone try every deflection tactic in the book and fail at all of them. Bondi did not look up from her legal pad. Mr. Trump, let me ask a different question. Do you know what the Epstein Memorial Foundation is? Trump's tone shifted. I know there are a lot of foundations. Foundations do charitable work. This foundation was created 3 weeks after Jeffrey Epstein's death. I do not know anything about that. But you authorized a transfer to it? I did not say I authorized anything. I said I do not recall. You do not recall authorizing $847 billion to a foundation named after Jeffrey Epstein? I do not recall the specifics of every financial transaction my companies process. Bondi made another note. How many $847 billion transactions do your companies typically process? Trump's jaw tightened. That is not a fair question. Why is it not fair? Because you are trying to make it sound like this is unusual. Is it usual for you to authorize $847 billion transfers? I authorize transfers based on business needs. What business need required $847 billion to go to the Epstein Memorial Foundation? Trump looked at his attorneys. One of them leaned forward. Counsel, this line of questioning assumes facts not write this email. I do not recall writing it. That is different from saying you did not write it. I am saying I do not remember. Mr. Trump, did you authorize $847 billion to ensure continued protection of sensitive materials? I do not know what that phrase means. Did you authorize the transfer? I already told you I do not recall the transfer. The email is from your account. The signature is yours. The amount matches. Are you saying this entire transaction happened without your knowledge? Trump looked at his attorneys. One of them spoke. Counsel, my client has answered this question multiple times. Bondi kept her eyes on Trump. Has he? What you are watching is someone running out of room to maneuver. Every deflection leads back to the same question. Every denial creates a new inconsistency. Trump has nowhere left to go except the truth or perjury. Bondi pulled out a third document. Mr. Trump, Exhibit 24. This is a memo from your Chief Financial Officer dated June 15, 2023. 3 days after the email. The memo is addressed to you. Can you read the first paragraph? Trump glanced at it. I receive hundreds of memos. Can you read it? Trump sighed. It says, confirming your verbal authorization to proceed with the $847 billion transfer to Epstein Memorial Foundation as protection payment for materials currently held in offshore storage. He looked up. I do not remember this memo. But you do not deny receiving it? I receive a lot of memos. This memo says you gave verbal authorization. I give a lot of verbal authorizations. For $847 billion protection payments? Trump's voice rose. I do not know what this memo is talking about. The memo says materials in offshore storage. What materials? I have no idea. You authorized $847 billion and you have no idea what it was protecting? I did not say I authorized it. Your CFO said you gave verbal authorization. Then he is wrong? Your CFO is lying? I am saying he misunderstood. He misunderstood a verbal authorization for $847 billion? People misunderstand things all the time. What did he misunderstand? I do not know what conversation he is referring to. So you are saying you never had a conversation with your CFO about this transfer? I have many conversations with my CFO. Did any of those conversations involve $847 billion? Trump stood up. I need a break. Bondi looked at the court reporter. Let the record show the witness requested a break at 2:51 p.m. Trump walked out of the room. The deposition resumed 14 minutes later. Trump came back with a different expression, less defensive, more calculated. He sat down and folded his hands on the table. Bondi picked up exactly where she left off. Mr. Trump, before the break, I asked if you ever had a conversation with your CFO about the $847 billion transfer. Do you want to answer that question? Trump's voice was calmer now. I may have had general conversations about financial strategy. Did those conversations include discussions about protecting sensitive materials? I discuss a lot of strategies. Did you discuss paying $847 billion to protect materials related to Jeffrey Epstein? Trump looked directly at her. I never had any materials related to Jeffrey Epstein. Bondi leaned forward. That is not what I asked. That is my answer. Mr. Trump, I asked if you discussed paying to protect materials. You just told me you never had materials. Those are two different things. I am telling you I had nothing to do with Jeffrey Epstein. But someone had materials, and you paid $847 billion to protect them. I did not say that. Your email says continued protection. Your CFO's memo says protection payment. What were you protecting? Trump's jaw clenched. Nothing. Nothing costs $847 billion? I am telling you, I did not authorize any protection payment. Then what did you authorize? I do not recall authorizing anything. Bondi sat back. Mr. Trump, you have now testified that you do not remember the transfer, do not remember the email, do not remember the memo, do not remember conversations with your CFO, and do not know what the $847 billion was for? Is that accurate? Trump stared at her. That is accurate. And yet all of these documents have your name, your signature, your email address, and your authorization. Then someone forged them. All of them? If necessary. In evidence? Bondi did not look at the attorney. Mr. Trump, do you want to answer the question, or should I move on? Trump waved his hand. Ask whatever you want. Drop a comment right now and tell me how many deflections you count in the next section, because Trump is about to set a record. Bondi flipped a page in the portfolio. Mr. Trump, I am showing you what has been marked as Exhibit 14. Can you identify this document? Trump glanced at it. It looks like a financial statement. It is a transfer authorization form. Do you see your signature at the bottom? Trump squinted at the page. That could be anyone's signature. It is authenticated by notary seal. Notaries authenticate signatures all the time. That does not mean I remember signing it. But you do not deny that it is your signature? I sign hundreds of documents. I cannot confirm every signature. This signature authorized $847 billion. Do you typically not remember signing authorizations for that amount? Trump's tone got harder. I am telling you, I do not recall this specific document. Bondi did not blink. When you sign documents authorizing $847 billion, do you read them first? My attorneys review documents. Did your attorneys review this one? You would have to ask them. I am asking you. I do not remember. You do not remember if your attorneys reviewed an $847 billion authorization? I sign what they tell me to sign. So you are saying your attorneys told you to sign this? Trump shifted in his seat. I am saying that I rely on my attorneys to ensure everything is proper. And if this transfer was improper, that would be your attorney's fault? I did not say it was improper. But you do not know if it was proper because you do not remember it? I am saying that my attorneys handle these matters. What you are watching right now is textbook deflection. Blame staff, claim memory failure, redirect to process. Avoid the substance. Trump has used these tactics in hundreds of interviews. But in a deposition, there is no commercial break. There is no crowd to play to. There is just the question, the witness, and the court reporter capturing every word. Bondi turned to a new page. Mr. Trump, let me ask about the purpose of this transfer. What was the $847 billion intended to accomplish? You would have to ask the foundation. The foundation dissolved 4 months after receiving the money. Then I do not know. You authorized $847 billion to a foundation, and you do not know what it was for? I authorized a lot of things. Each one has a purpose. I do not remember every purpose. Do you remember any purpose that would justify $847 billion? Trump looked at his attorneys again. This is ridiculous. She is asking me to speculate about something I already said I do not remember. Bondi's voice stayed level. I am asking you to explain why you authorized the largest single transfer in your financial history to a foundation named after a convicted sex offender. Trump's face went red. I never said I authorized it. Your signature is on the authorization. I sign a lot of things. You said that already, because it is true. So your testimony is that you signed documents authorizing $847 billion without reading them, without knowing what they are for, and without remembering them afterwards? My testimony is that I run businesses. Businesses move money. That is how businesses work. Do your businesses typically move $847 billion to memorial foundations? My businesses do what is necessary. What was necessary about this transfer? Trump slammed his hand on the table. I do not know. Subscribe now, because what happens next is the moment Bondi stops asking questions and starts presenting evidence Trump did not know existed. The room went silent. Trump's attorneys both reached for their pens. Bondi opened the portfolio and pulled out a second document. Mr. Trump, I am showing you Exhibit 19. This is an email dated June 12, 2023. The sender address is your personal email. The recipient is the Epstein Memorial Foundation Director. Can you read the subject line for the record? Trump stared at the document. I do not recall sending this email. Can you read the subject line? It says transfer confirmation. Can you read the first sentence of the body? Trump's voice got quieter. This confirms authorization for the agreed amount. What agreed amount? It does not say in that sentence. Can you read the second sentence? Trump did not answer. Bondi read it for him. The second sentence says the $847 billion will be transferred as discussed to ensure continued protection of sensitive materials. She looked up at him. What sensitive materials? Trump put the document down. I did not write that email. It came from your email address. Someone must have accessed my account. Do you have any evidence your account was accessed by someone else? I do not monitor every email. But you just testified that you did.